Hello and welcome back to the Gamer's Tale. I am your Dungeon Master for the evening, Trent Gander. I am joined by my friend Lee. Kieran, the Cool Cuts Play Kid and the Legends Kid from TGR, is not going to be joining us for this evening. That I know, though he may pop in later, but I doubt it. We'll be discussing a hoax that's been going around the internet in regards to certain consoles. We're going to do a little update on a game we talked about previously, and we're going to talk about two relatively new and or Kickstarter new projects coming up in the RPG world. Uh, First, say hello, Lee, and if you feel the need, you can give us a little bit of your history in at least regards to RPGs and gaming.
Absolutely. My name's Lee, active duty type, playing tabletops now for 14 years or somewhere in there. Obviously started with the obligatory D&D 3.5, um, playing video games of one sort or another back to the NES ages, and now PC Master Race and a little bit of tabletop when I have time.
Of course, you had to slip in that PC Master Race bit. Anyway, all right. There's been hoax going around online that Sega is releasing a revamped device of theirs, Mega Drive Genesis console, in response to Nintendo's Mini NES. But this has been debunked. The console itself exists, but it was released in 2012. It has mushy controls, it has crap wiring on the inside, and it has this is a ROM emulator of some of the classic Sega games. They have games, Mortal Kombat series, and what some people theorize why people thought it was a new release is because the new box has 25th anniversary of Sonic on it. I'm just going to read you some of the names of the puzzles that are included on the AD ROMs that are on it, just because they sound like somebody's trolling us with innuendo. They include Meatloaf Rotation, Hidden Agenda, Snake, Mr. Balls, Jack's P, and Plumbing Contest. Yeah. I don't know why that wouldn't tip someone off as it being fake. Uh, Red Markets, a RPG based on post-apocalyptic economy that we have up on the page to link to, is now 601% funded, and we do not yet know the release date. New on Kickstarter is an RPG called Reflections. It's samurai dueling. It's two players. They have to come up with a reason why the two samurai know each other, how they met each other, why this duel is going to take place. And through the various scenes that they go through in the various scenarios, they gain attack dice and rage points, the slights that have been put against them. And the entire game ends at a single die roll, obviously ending with someone's death. They're under their funds, and they have 28 days to go on Kickstarter. So if you're interested in that, check out Reflections Samurai Dueling RPG. Modifius, I think that's how it's pronounced, is releasing a new Venus Apocalypse for their new Mutant Chronicles. The new release has 4 chapters, the fourth one being a concluding chapter of their 3rd edition. Pretty much the baseline is there's 7 seals spread throughout the solar system. Finding one of these seals almost ended human life. So obviously it was a good idea to go find the other 6 seals, and one of them has been found on Venus. And you have to, and they call it the Taint, the new evil that's spreading across the galaxy, must be stopped, of course, and you also have to kind of make sure that Venus is still mostly in one piece when you're finished. Obviously, this is a good thing, and pretty much every sci-fi video, movie, series ever in a nutshell. On something that I actually saw while getting ready for the show, There is an Oregon Trail card game. I don't know
I,
what. Go
I,
ahead.
I'm glad you saw that too. I actually just scrolling through Facebook caught a description of it, and I don't think that they can print enough dysentery cards for this to work.
I'm reading the. I'll read the small description that they have here. First released in 1971, popular video game Oregon Trail has taught generations of children about pioneer life on the famed trail that connected Missouri to Oregon. Now, 45 years later, Oregon Trail has reportedly made its way from the computer screen to the tabletop. The Oregon Trail card game, a card and dice game based on the classic computer game from Pressman Toy Company, will be released exclusively in Target stores in the future, according to Polygon. The 2 to 6 player games feature supply cards for 200 pounds of food, clean water, 100 bullets, clothes, medicine, and oxen. As the gameplay goes on, the players, ages 12 and up, draw cards that tell them about their progress or the random hardships they'll face throughout their journey to the Beaver State. There are also trail cards for towns and forts so players can pick up additional supplies, along with calamity cards such as snake bites, broken wagon axles, extreme cold, and death from typhoid or dysentery. Along the way, pioneers slowly die off until the last ones in the party make it to the end of the trail to win the game. The game even comes with gravestones so players can write down their names and how they died on their final resting place. Oh man, that's morbid in a hilarious way.
I really think that this is going to end up much. Um, oh, I'm spacing on the name of the game. Cards Against Humanity, where
Uh,
the homebrewed cards will end up being better than what they put in themselves, just because the players at home are a little more convoluted in the head. So
I,
should be a fun one to watch.
I so want to play Cards Against Humanity. I've always wanted to. I have not yet had the opportunity.
It is a game best played not sober.
I know people, or give an example of me and my brother, who act drunk when we're completely sober. So that sounds like great fun for us, at least.
And that's the other playing with, because I've had the pleasure of playing with comparative strangers and playing with close friends. Close friends adds just that little extra bit of humor. And yeah, definitely looking forward to Oregon Trail.
Anyway, um, last week we had talked about Pokemon Go. Now, since Kieran is not here, uh, I'll hopefully hit the highlights of why he thinks it's a terrible game, and that is because he believes it could lead to possible ease of child predators kidnapping children, people getting in trouble, and I forget what else. That he's just annoyed by it mainly because it has clogged social media feed with so many Pokemon related things. I asked Lee to come on here because he is, for lack of a better term, a guru on the subject of Pokemon, and I have no real clue about Pokemon except for what I've learned from osmosis of seeing it ads for it on TV for the various games and for the various TV series, and the ubiquitous Pikachu and Team Rocket and stuff like that.
To hit on, I want to hit on the first point, which is quote unquote aiding predators. And we immediately hear the horror stories without any basis, and it sounds really good in our head, so we go with it. Most predators are family, friends, or relatives, so the thought that Pokemon Go is going to put your children at risk is absolute nonsense. On to the second part, which is the disruptive tendencies that come out when you have otherwise antisocial individuals out in public. Call it what it is. I'm in a very small town right next to the border with Mexico in Arizona. Um, when I say very small town, I want to say it's about 15,000, if that, spread out across the municipal area. Um, there has consistently, since the release of Pokemon Go, been about 40 to 50 people at any one point in time in one of the handful of parks here in the town. And for the most part, who would have thought? It's not the unwashed, smelly nerd like the popular conception is. A lot of, believe it or not, grandparents, a lot of parents bringing their children to the park. Um, the demographic is not there for the basement dweller that I've seen. I had the absolute pleasure of going to San Diego for a week about 2 weeks ago after the release of Pokemon Go. And routinely everywhere we went, as my wife and I were playing, there were other people playing. And it was a really good, just that acknowledgement of, oh, hey, what level are you? What have you caught? It is very much a social thing. And again, there hasn't been a creeper. There has not been the basement dweller covered in Cheeto dust or anything of the sort.
Okay. Well, I thought his point was a bit off because I thought really the demographic was mid-20s to older. And then you kind of brought the other demographics in that it's not like very small children, 10 and under, are going to be wandering around by themselves playing Pokemon. That's just not the current stereotype it is. I'm thinking hipsters and other people walking around playing Pokemon. It's not conducive, I guess you would say, to a predatory person who's going to be predatory anyway.
And really, yes, there will be, there will be the sad cases of Pokemon Go players getting hit by vehicles because they're not paying attention. There's already been a couple muggings of players who are in secluded areas because there's a lure, which is an in-game real location that increases your chances of running into a wild Pokemon. Yes, there have been these instances, but upon the last time I looked, which was about a week and a half ago, there were 7.5 million downloads of this game. Bad things were going to happen to that large of a group, regardless of what the joining reason was.
What I found interesting is I heard 2 to 3 stories. One where the Pokemon Go players came upon a loaded weapon across a dead body and into an armed robbery. Those are the 3 major ones that I saw on social media of some of the negative impacts of Pokemon Go. Plus, a random woman suing because she got hit by a car because she wasn't paying attention. Yeah.
The getting people outside of the house is wonderful. Who would have thought? And as you have people who are out, due to work schedules, a couple of the Pokemon Go groups that I'm in on Facebook, work schedules, some of these people are out late at night, some of them are out early in the morning. Yes, you run into things, and again, as of the 11th of July, the estimated download is 7.5 million, just here in the U.S. It's going to happen.
The odds are not in their favor.
What was that?
The odds are not in their favor.
No, not at all. And that is 7.5 in the US. Across the world right now, a bunch of news sources are repeating 75 million downloads. And currently, I believe it just released in Europe about a week and a half ago. Um, so, that number will continue to go up.
There was an interesting thing I had read on social media going off of the other things in Europe. Apparently, in Russia, there's a game similar to Pokemon Go, only you're having to go around Moscow and catch actual historical figures like Ivan the Terrible and other historically related Russian oligarchs and things like that to increase the interest in the history of Moscow. And while I'm not going to go to Russia just to play a game, I thought that was very intriguing from the stance of me being a history buff in some respects.
So this is actually really not, while in scale, this is one of the largest implementations of augmented reality and tying real world locations to a game. Geocaching has been around for a very long time. And I remember in San Diego at Balboa Park around 2011, 2012, there was a steampunk directed augmented reality that required you to walk around the park, and it told you this setting. Told you a story set during World War II. Obviously, World War II in San Diego was very militant due to it being one of the largest bases in the continental U.S. on the West Coast for the fight against Japan. Seeing the implementation change over the last 10 years is definitely very, very interesting.
Yeah, I like studying people, so this is a very interesting concept in and of itself. But it reminds me of something I talked about with one of the other people who had guest hosted on here, Pete Wadsworth from TGR. He and I I had come across and brought it up to him an RPG that was based on, I forgot the name of it, but it was about traveling through time. And the entire purpose of the game and the manual itself was to convince you that you were actually the events that were taking place in the game, because you had to keep a journal about what you were doing, what was happening, had actually occurred and was supposed to be immersive to make you think that you were actually a time traveling. I guess it's very Doctor Who, Time Lord-esque individual. And they had been trying. This was back in the 80s, I believe it was. So my point being that things like this, augmented realities, especially with a very in-depth, convincing undertone, have been around for literally decades.
Which gets into a very interesting of what direction is augmented reality and virtual reality headed into. From a tech perspective, seeing things like the Oculus and HTC Vive hitting mainstream and this resurgence of virtual reality tech is phenomenal. The implementation of it, not so much, in that it's an $800 headset for games that I would have played at an arcade 10 years ago. However, it's getting the tech out there at a reasonable price point that will kind of push the market in that direction. I'm definitely interested to see in what comes next.
Going off of the figuring out economics point, if you're interested in that, Lee, I suggest that you check out Red Markets, because it is about building an economy during the zombie apocalypse, only within a limited area with limited resources.
I am looking right now. Kickstarter. the and it is remarkable the kind of niche games like this that Kickstarter and Steam have allowed. You know.
Yeah. This one seems that for me, I first thought, okay, it's another zombie game. It's going to be the same old, okay, where the survivors are trying to make it to the end and not become this meal for someone who used to be human. But this one added another level to it that most people, I don't think, really explore in the zombie games, which is how do you survive economically in addition to physically? Weapons when there aren't as many zombies flooding the streets, but they've been contained within the area of containment that you live in. How are you going to pay your bills or get your food if you don't know how to forage or have access to get the resources? So that angle of it was very interesting to me personally, because I will admit I don't usually consider that part in either my own stories or the games that I play. Of course, I usually just play games for the fun of it. So it's just like, okay, we come in, we shoot some zombies, we go out.
The see, and honestly, from a D&D perspective, one of my biggest pet peeves, if you will, has been making a setting feel believable. And the economic perspective is something that I wish more game developers got into, such as, for example, in a war-torn countryside, why is there one wagon pulled by one donkey with a wizened old man who isn't even armed carrying thousands of gold worth of items?
Yeah.
It's stuff like that that it really, I do think, helps immerse you in a setting.
Well, I truly enjoy it. When I write my stories, I've written a couple of fiction stories, but I haven't published them yet. But I like to make it seem believable. It's not going to be, except in the more comedic stories where it's like it just happens to be there, or it's this unrealistic thing that you don't expect, like a refrigerator that's running in the middle of the desert that just happens to have one thing that you need resting within it. No. I enjoy my realism in a lot of my games.
And yeah, I'm right there with you. Which is why I've moved away from the D20 system in a lot of ways. I've moved away from very, very basic settings and into I don't want to say more in depth, but more niche and more derived, even in a fantasy setting, derived from the real world.
Don't get me wrong, I enjoy stuff. I enjoy reading and having the backstories behind things like Warhammer 40,000. I really like the in-depthness of it, but while having not played it, it's more of a let's just brawl, from my perspective, because it seems very similar to one thing that I have played, which is Runescape, which was pretty much let's just brawl in this particular part of the countryside.
To use a setting that you and I both enjoy, the Republic Commando series.
Oh yes.
Which is, I think, one of the best adaptations of real-world experience on the author's part, covering special forces in Afghanistan and Iraq, into this fantastical Star Wars setting. Which is, again, where I think your brain subconsciously doesn't go, oh, hey, this doesn't make sense. That can't be real, because regardless of the setting, it is obvious that the author is speaking intelligently about the subject.
Yeah,
and you just kind of press the I believe button a little bit harder,
I
and
gotta
you
say,
go with it.
I loved that series. It literally made me cry while reading it. And I think I read the first book of the series almost the first day I got it. It was that good. Well, of course, it was a small book, but I like the part about it is that it told the story of slightly above average, but of the average man in the trenches compared to the I'm the high fluting Jedi Council member or I'm Master Obi-Wan. From reading that series, I came to dislike most of the Jedi. It was that in depth and that believable for me, and pulled on my heartstrings and stuff like that to convince me that this is a realistic setting. This is a fantastic story and something that I already know, but it's a new facet of it I have not yet seen.
For me, in a lot of ways, the Jedi are removed from reality, and they take a very epic level look at everything that's around them. Whereas the Republic Commando series does not. They focus very much on the immediate problems ahead of them. They're very believable problems, and they're solvable. There is no, magic. Oh, hey, just go to this planet and get this piece of unobtainium, and all of the galaxy's problems are fixed. It is, all about believable solutions to believable problems for believable characters.
And there's also the naivety of some of the characters because they had been sheltered and indoctrinated about how the Jedi operated for all their lives. And with that realization that through both ours and the characters' realization that that wasn't the reality of the situation, helped get us out of our shell as readers and as Star Wars enthusiasts to see, okay, the Jedi and the Sith are not the only game in town. From reading the series, I actually became a Mando, at least in Star Wars, because it's like, okay, this guy over here, they're doing all this stuff just because of a disagreement on what would be really religious beliefs millennia ago. I care more about the people like Han Solo and the people in the cantina on Mos Eisley more than uh, the fancy schmancy elite religious doctrines.
And that is exactly it from my perspective. Is I and I fully recognize I'm a little bitter about epic level fantasy, but I do find myself rooting for the guy who is not just the underdog, but the guy who is legitimately struggling to survive. Um, I blame Robert Jordan for the distaste of epic fantasy, but it is one of those things that is definitely appealing about kind of Karen Travis's take on the troopers themselves.
Yes, especially even after the Trooper area, excuse me, in the Legacy series, when she wrote 2 to 3 of the books for after the original trilogy timeline and after the War with the Vong, that is like I read all 9 books of that series. I'm gonna say about 10 times. And I always look forward to, and unfortunately, spend most of my time speeding through the Karen Travis books because I enjoy them so much, and I still dislike it after I realized how much of a crappy ending the last Legacy series book was. It seemed like they didn't put any effort into it. The
I
characters. Go ahead.
Oh, no, no. And I wonder how much of that legitimately came from the dissenting opinions between Karen Traviss and George Lucas, which caused the end of the Republic Commando series in general. How much of it came down to she knew the series was not going to continue, so she's obliged to write a book, but why invest the time, energy, effort into making it good when you can instead just get it out so you can focus on other things with longevity? Which takes a lot of the magic out of the book itself, but it is what it is.
If memory serves, the last book of the series wasn't actually written by Karen Traviss, at least in regards to the Legacy series. It was written by Devin, I think it was. Though, anyway, you could tell he was a video game scriptwriter. But it's like characters that we had grown to actually give a crap about, which were Boba Fett and Jaina Solo, behaved completely differently than they had been set up in the last Karen Traviss written book, which was, I believe it wasn't Sacrifice. Invincible. No. Anyway, the second to last book was written by Traviss, and we left me expecting more. But then when I read the next book, nothing was the same. It's like we had jumped from one series to another. And it legitimately still angers me every time I think about the lack of seeming effort put into some of the details of that last book. Like, I don't know if you've read the Legacy series, but I'm going to assume that most of the people who will eventually be watching this have not. In one of the parts of the series, Boba Fett has a set of Mandalorian armor made for him by the husband of one of his commandos. And the smith says that properly forged Beskar, it would take Jaina Solo a week of hitting any of the Beskar blade with her lightsaber before it even made a dent. We go to the last book, and sustained blaster fire on one edge of properly forged Beskar plates. I'm going to assume they're properly forged Beskar plates. Less than 10 minutes of exposure from heavy fire melts them and then kills the several Mandalorians in the conflict. Yeah, no, that's totally, from what we were given beforehand, that's totally unrealistic.
And this comes down to authors in joint settings doing their due diligence and actually talking to one another. But as a fan of the Deathland series, post-apocalyptic, like D-grade science fiction, you could tell when they switched authors because even just the basic descriptions for the characters and basic syntax changed. Logistical concerns that should not be a concern in the day and age of email, but
I will attest that this is also in the Legacy series. The series starts off with Aaron Allison, who is now unfortunately deceased at such a young age of 56, I believe it was. But he was a very detached writer. He told you the story. He had somewhat of an overview style, but there was a plot, you could follow it, but you didn't have an emotional attachment with the characters. Switch over to Traviss, you have a very, very personal attachment to the characters and how they feel and how they interact, and they come alive off the pages. Switching to the third guy, Troy Denning. There we go. Troy Denning writes his like it's video game script, and I have nothing against video game script, but you could tell it was action, we don't really care about the backstory of a character. We'll just throw him in the middle of this firefight, and you're going to be entertained. Which, any good writer should make an emotional attachment with his audience, and he should either, failing that, he should create a situation in which they want to find out what happens next without as emotional attachment, but they want to continue reading. I'm reading Troy Denning stuff. I want to read so I can get done reading his part of the book, which is not at all what any good writer is aiming for. They want you to linger over each word and eat it like it's your favorite food. I think we've philosophized a bit too much off on the rabbit trail over Star Wars. I'll bring it back on topic just a little bit. There is an upcoming expansion pack for the Star Wars RPG. I forget what it was because I didn't want to include it in this episode, but there is a new one coming out. I gotta ask, Lee, have you seen The Force Awakens?
Yes, I have.
Okay. When did you see it? Because you're probably going to be surprised by my answer.
Wait, can you say that again?
I said, when did you see it? Because I'm pretty sure you're going to be surprised by my answer to that question.
I saw it 2 days, 3 days after release. I had to wait. My little brother was coming down on leave, and I had a good friend coming in. So we decided to wait till we could all see it together.
Okay. I believe it's been a month since the first time I saw it.
Why the decision to wait?
Mainly because I was not impressed after they removed what is now considered the Legends, but also because of being able to afford to go to and having mobility to go to a movie theater to see it. One of the admins over on Diary of a Sith Chick, who I help admin with, was kind enough to give me access to her online copy of The Force Awakens, and I finally watched it. So, since we're both, for lack of a better term, Star Wars nerds in certain respects, what was your analysis of The Force Awakens?
The plot felt very, 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 very forced. In that, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, it's been 8 months, I don't feel bad. R2-D2. The minute Rey is there, R2-D2 miraculously turns back on, and all is good in the world. They couldn't have pulled R2-D2's hard drives and retrieved the map. No, he had to be on. In a lot of ways, I want a harder science fiction as well, because there are just certain things that are wrong in regards to physics that, generally speaking, pissed me off. It captured the feel in a lot of ways of the original trilogy, but it wasn't quite there. I'm excited to see what they do with the rest of the series and with the spin-offs, but I was not super impressed.
I was not impressed either. I'll tell you why. And I'll probably give this spiel to the day I die. I felt there was 4 to 5 major parts of the movie that were tenuously connected with something like string. It wasn't, from my recollection of seeing the original Star Wars movie, it didn't have that kind of driving force behind it that you had a lot of legitimate characters. I felt that for Kylo Ren, for the unfortunate disappointment that was Captain Phasma, and for General Hux, while I discussing this with the other admins over on the Star Wars page, while I do recognize that they are young men comparatively to Tarkin and Darth Vader and even Boba Fett, they seem both ingenuine, and that people who cold open watch the movie wouldn't have understood who these individuals are just by watching the 2-hour movie. I felt that Disney, on its part, failed because I think they expected people to get a lot of their information from the hour-long explanatory movie or hour-long explanatory extra part that they include that I haven't watched, and the commercials that they had leading up to it to explain too much of the plot to their viewers. I didn't get the same awe-inspiring, gut-clenching impressiveness of Darth Vader in Kylo Ren. I understand why Kylo Ren is a volatile individual, but it kind of seemed like they pulled some random guy off the street, dressed him up in black, and sent him on his way to go retrieve a special memory disk. I'll reference the iconic figure of Darth Vader coming aboard Tantive 4 after it has been chased down. You could tell Vader was the boss. You could tell he was there to supervise his troops, and he was there to, for lack of a better term, see the major political prisoner. I didn't get that with Kylo Ren. I'm here to retrieve something. It just so happens that I'm the leader of these shock troopers. I would watch the show again, but I was not very pleased with The Force Awakens.
I think in a lot of ways this is Disney putting too much foreshadowing in and failing to properly make The Force Awakens a good movie for itself. Obviously, Kylo Ren did not have the same feel as Vader, but I would argue that he had the same feel as Anakin in episode number 3 in chronological order of the universe itself. It is definitely oriented towards Kylo Ren is not deeply rooted into the First Order. He is not as established as Vader was during the time of the original trilogy, if that makes any sense.
I would agree as well, because they obviously are setting up for some sort of internal play between light side and dark side. And my fellow admins over at Diary of a Sith Chick don't want a redemption arc. But what I would prefer, personally, I prefer to see a more believable character. You could read anything you want into some of his actions if you try hard enough. But I'll switch gears because it popped into my head. Hux. I was expecting from Hux at least a Tarkin-esque character, the strong British captain or general of his forces. I got maybe a fresh cadet, I guess. I don't really know that much about it, but he did not imbue me with the strength or the leadership ability that I, from reading Karen Travis's book, expected from a good leader.
And I will absolutely, completely agree with that. He is, for lack of a better way to put it, he did not, as a character, appear as someone you would send by themselves on a absolutely critical mission. Personally, I wouldn't trust him to go into his closet by himself to pick out clothes, let alone, leading a one-of-one espionage mission to retrieve, secret plans from the enemy. Which again throws the shadow of a doubt onto the universe. Why is he the most trusted agent?
Unless they're going to reveal somehow that the First Order isn't actually as great as we're led to believe. That's actually just a front for another organization.
And I think that they did kind of allude to the First Order not being as strong as, for example, the Empire was. Seeing the way that the uh, First Order troopers were treated and the requirements to keep them dehumanized. I would say that the control over the First Order is not as great as the as the Imperial troopers were.
Let alone the Republic troopers.
Which gets into kind of the iterations of this idea of a dehumanized human military that is kind of hinted at. You definitely see the evolution of it being carried out in Star Wars.
Yes. I remember one of the greatest things that they tried to dispel from Star Wars, in the Clone Wars series at least, was that the clones were not flesh droids. They were human. They humanized them to a great degree in the Clone Wars series, and in Karen Travis's books, and even partially, I guess you could say, in the Stormtroopers in the original one. They were still guys in white armor. They still could scare the crap out of you. They may have been weak-minded, but when you saw them coming, you expected a disciplined military force inflicting some sort of law and order on a given area. My favorite quote from Star Wars Battlefront 2 was playing as the Empire conquering the galaxy. Tarkin says, David Tarkin, the Empire has received credits for spreading order on Naboo. It's like, you have the Empire, they come in, they spread some form of order on, but it's not necessarily a haphazard job.
The opening scene in The Force Awakens with the First Order conducting their, for lack of a better way to put it, amphibious assault on the village was one of those scenes where you really get a glimpse at the proficiency of the First Order as a fighting force, which gives you an idea of the proficiency of the First Order itself. I will say that I absolutely like seeing the bad guys as more than just walking targets for the hero to shoot down. Now, immediately 5 minutes after that scene, they went back to bumbling idiots who can't hit the broadside of a barn. But for that 5 minutes, I was hitting the I believe button and going, wow, okay, this is actually, really good. And again, it comes into making the characters in the universe believable.
Yes. I will share my own opinion on this. If I were the Rebel guys, by the time I saw those, for lack of a better term, drop ships, I would have begun opening fire on those drop ships, because why wait for the guys to get out if they're in a nice little box?
Because plot device, that's why.
Plot device. Darn you, plot device. Anyway.
Yeah.
I will say there was several scenes in that movie that I absolutely loved, especially with Poe. When he's being first interrogated after being captured by Kylo Ren. I enjoyed that scene. I enjoyed him and his interaction with Finn. I wanted to see more Finn and Poe, for lack of a better term, their relationship, no matter how you want to spin it, as people are wont to do on the internet. I wanted to see more of their interaction. I was not given the thing that I actually wanted to see. I was given the temper tantrums of an ancestor worshipping man with a chrome pin-up doll who does not actually serve any other purpose than being chrome.
The dynamic between the characters, certain characters did really play well off of one another. Rey and Han Solo's dynamic really, really entertained me. Um, as you said, as the internet is wont to do, all of the characters have been shipped, and we'll go from there. But no, I absolutely agree, and I'm excited to see what they do with the characters. I'm excited to see the role that Chewbacca plays. Um, Luke, as he rejoins the universe, or however you want to look at it. Um, I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
I think we can all agree on all who've seen it that scene at the end with the interminable amount of staring could have been shorter.
It could have been shorter, could have included some satisfaction to the plot, could have, I don't know, set us up for the next one besides just staring as, the camera flies around the island. Yeah.
Now, I could agree if I could say that if that flying around the camera or flying around the island with the camera thing was at the beginning of the next one, okay, that'd be fine. But not at the end. Come on. We at least have some witty dialogue at the end.
um, However, Rogue One does look really good from all of the previews that I've seen. I am going to go again on release day and wade through the crowds to go see it because I am truly excited for it.
I hope that reports that my more uh, connected Star Wars fan friends have say that it's people are expecting it to be dark. Disney may not want it to be as dark, but the 30 some odd crowd and the 20 crowd that I'm a part of wants to see a dark, gritty Star Wars. And seeing that, from what I've heard, that it's supposed to be ending 5 minutes before A New Hope occurs, the throes of the rebellion, gritty woodwork.
And I think that that's more than just Disney struggling to kind of come to terms with. Um, Legitimately, I think that there's a lot of companies that don't want the R-rated, the R rating to accompany their franchise. They don't want it to appear dark and gritty. They want to maintain the quote unquote wholesomeness of it, which we've seen in things like Batman, which is the dark and gritty is absolutely phenomenal when it's done right, and yet up until A Killing Joke, which just came out this week, we didn't really get to see a dark and gritty Batman. I think it's much the same with Disney. There is a lot of room to give the adult audience who's grown up with it what we want, which is something that more suits the fact that we're 20-year-olds and not 7-year-olds anymore. And it's just a matter of seeing if Disney's willing to do it.
There's two things in this, in that some of the things like that they show in the list that says like 20 things to show Batman was a dick, show the 20s, 30, or I don't know when it was first. I'm gonna say 20s. The really early releases of Batman, where Batman actually killed people. They have on one of the things where they have, oh, remember the time where Batman and Superman had their sidekicks dig their own graves before Batman shot them? It's like, no, I don't. Tell me more.
And a lot of that comes down to the time frame that it was written. Comic books following shortly after the serial publication of science fiction. With all media, it changes to reflect the times, and the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s were definitely different from the 40s when a lot of these characters were written. Captain America killing Nazis changed during the 60s, 70s, and 80s to fighting the Cold War, and in today's fighting the war on terror. It is definitely a reflection of the culture, and I think we're definitely seeing that with certain franchises, Batman being one of the best examples.
But what I enjoyed, sorry, one of the parts that they also inject certain parts of society into is remember reading how in one episode they actually showed that uh, Green Lantern was a racist, and they had to create a character around. They created a character that was believable, but they didn't actually come out and show it as you would expect in a cardboardy sort of way. They revealed it through an interaction with the character. They're also going off of that. I would prefer that people at least try to have some respect for lack of better term, the name brands like Batman, Superman, Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, to stay true to some of the original bits of the characters that we came to love back when they were first being published and things. It's like people today kind of would go so far as to make it so that the Incredible Hulk wasn't always angry. That's like his superpower. That is what makes him the Hulk. Yeah, but well, I have heard that they probably are going to change Iron Man into um, a black woman, a teenage black woman, and if it works and they sell it, good on them. But it's Iron Man. I guess I'm old-fashioned, at least in that respect.
If it is, to quote Larry Correia, who's one of my favorite authors, as you and I have discussed, if the story is not a good story, if it does not entertain readers, it will not sell. If they are doing it for the sake of being inclusive, get over yourself, But if they're doing it because they think that they can create a new story and present a new side of kind of a character, by all means, I can get down with it. We'll go from there.
Yeah, if the story is good, I'll listen. But going back to the R rating in TV shows and movies, Deadpool. I have not personally seen Deadpool because I don't want to watch all the stuff that happens in Deadpool. But that has had a phenomenal response. It stayed true to some of the comics, which I have seen bits of. It's like the really gross and raunchy Deadpool comes alive on the screen, and I still do not understand why people brought their young children to try to go see Deadpool. Okay, I don't understand that at all. But it had a great review because people were expecting Deadpool, and they got the Merc with a mouth, not mouse. They got sarcastic, masochistic, hedonistic individual who breaks the fourth wall for fun.
I did see Deadpool, and I can absolutely say that it was absolutely entertaining. One of those things that I definitely like because, again, Marvel recognized the demographic who they're selling this to, and it is not teens. Well, what I mean is they recognize that they have an adult market, and that's phenomenal. Couple in the fact that it was absolutely hilarious, and yeah, I was really, really impressed with Deadpool.
From the ads and stuff that I've actually not had to pause or get out of this, this is gonna be funny. I will admit that being very rather well versed in sarcasm, it being one of my favorite forms of humor. A sarcastic anti-hero, which is also one of my favorite archetypes, is going to be fun if it's done well.
And that is kind of one of the biggest things, is making an anti-hero that doesn't fit the cliche of, oh, he's an anti-hero but he redeems himself, and getting, just legitimately a fun character who sticks to himself. There was no redemption piece at the end of Deadpool. He doesn't turn around and reflect on his life, because that's not how real people act, and it was really nice to see that, and absolutely just very well cast, very well acted, and it fit, and it worked. Who would have thought,
Well, going off of that, if memory serves, they embrace the fact that Deadpool is insane. There's no way getting around it. They play off the voices in his head. They play off of pretty much his split personalities in some respects. But they turn it into a superpower.
And they didn't play into that all too much in the movie. And I'm not a really big comic person, so I can't speak to that from the comics. Portraying the character's weaknesses become just as important as playing to their strengths,
Looking on a well-rounded character is the major purpose, is like the unattainable thing that someone wants when they're writing. It's doable, it's hard, but when it's done, especially, and we'll say it again, done well, it will sell and you'll make you money even after you're dead. That's how good it is. You can look at what some people consider the archetypical anti-hero, which is Batman. He's filthy rich orphan. He becomes vigilante for reasons that are explained for the tragedy in his life, and he becomes the Dark Avenger of Justice. He's not the White Knight on the White Knight in shining armor, running in on a white horse to save the day. He lurks in the shadows and he takes out the people in the shadows. That's why we like Batman. It's a realistic take on what people would probably do in reality. We don't, well, except at Comic Cons, we don't see people running around in costume, fighting crime. We don't see that. Well, we must admit that the fanciful nature of comics exists. Obviously, Lee and I would like to see something that's more realistic and closer to reality, something like The Punisher, which I hear is doing quite phenomenally in the Daredevil Netflix series.
If I'm remembering correctly, they're actually looking at doing a Punisher standalone because of how well he's doing the Daredevil series.
If I had Netflix, I'd probably watch it.
I have not watched Daredevil. And that is one of those, the playing well to your format matters as well. Just as much as good characters, understanding the limitations of your format. I'm not really a big fan of the TV format for a lot of superhero, just because it becomes too episodic in nature. And you start looking at the clock going, oh, hey, there's 7 minutes left. How's the good guy going to fix it,
Yeah. Well, then there's always the hated when it's like really good and then it says to be continued. Like, no, I want more of it now.
I'm guilty of that, and quickly running to the internet to find the next episode. I've done that a time or 17.
I will admit that after I got high-speed internet and I found Red vs. Blue on RoosterTeeth.com, I binged watched that thing for like a month. I got caught up like no base business. I would spend an hour watching 5-minute shows Like, what's happening next? What's happening next? I will not sleep until I find out what happens. Well, that is what good writing's about. It shines through in RPGs, in games, TV, in movies, and of course in books. And I think that's what everyone's trying to strive for. They want you to get addicted to their work. That's what they want.
And that is really one of the major things that transcends all mediums. You know, the DM for D&D, it is a rush. When you create a campaign that works well, that your characters fit in, and that your players are enjoying.
Phenomenal cosmic power.
So I have a random, due to the evils of Facebook, that question that was posed in a group that I'm in. What is the most embarrassing way that your game master killed the party? Trent, you have anything you want to add in?
I'm a heathen in this regard. I have not actually played a round of D&D, but probably the oddest way that one of my characters killed, or someone's killed. All I'm thinking of is all the first-person shooter ones where I actually took out the guy. The oddest way that I got killed, at least, was in Halo 3, playing with my friends Ben and Aaron. I think my brother was there as well. I was in, I think it's called the Valhalla map. I was flying one of the Banshees. I drop out, I take up a sniper position on the hill, and the Banshee drops on me and kills me. I dropped the Banshee on myself.
That's impressive.
That I ran the exact distance that it would free fall. Yeah, it is impressive. I think the second time that one of the most interesting ones was also in Halo with my cousin Gus. He had put up a bubble shield, and he said, "Ha ha, I'm in here." No less than 2 seconds after that, I run him over with a warthog through his bubble shield.
Physics, man, physics.
But if memory serves, the bubble shield only stops projectiles, but then the entire vehicle's actual projectile itself.
Because apparently physics doesn't matter, when it's hard to implement. And anyways, what other subjects do we have to hit on?
Other
now
than
that we've tangented heavily.
We tangented heavily, but I at least put in the description of this gamer ramblings, so we're covered. We covered everything else except for maybe rehashing some of the other subjects, since we have a fresh opinion. What seems to be a coup on the first-person shooter front of between Battlefield and not Halo, Call of Duty. The differences between the two franchises that have only grown much greater with time. The terrible handling of the newer Call of Duty games, which I have not played, but looking at them, they look like they suck. Through their futurizing modern combat, which eventually we would probably get to that point, compared to Battlefield attempting to get a historical shooter. Lee and I were discussing the evils of a historical shooter in the pre-show that it's hard. It's going to be a real messy little furball, at least for Battlefield 1. I think it's, personally, since I like more realistic things, but since it's probably not going to be realistic in comparison to World War One, I think I would probably enjoy Battlefield 1 better than any of the newer Call of Duties. Because most of my gameplay with Call of Duty has been uh, Modern Warfare 2, 3, and a little bit of Black Ops 2 and 1. Which leaves me with the question, where the heck happened to Medal of Honor?
Oh, what was the last Medal of Honor that was done?
Warfighter,
I know
I
it.
think.
Yeah, Warfighter, and I played it, and it actually was not bad from a multiplayer kind of competitive, which is my main interest in first-person shooters. I played Battlefield 4 competitively for a while, longer than a while, longer than I care to admit, and it is one of those things that it didn't do well enough because at the time Call of Duty was the standard to beat, and there was no more room in the market. Buying 2 to 3 AAA titles a year is about all most people are going to do, and you have to have some serious appeal to do that. And for a game to be successful, you have to sell it in a large enough volume that the online will function, because let's face it, single player doesn't exist anymore.
And I played Runescape.
You just dropped out there. Can you repeat that?
Okay, sorry. I asked, have you ever played RuneScape?
I did in 2002, 2003 timeframe.
I was, what was that, 8? Anyway. Going off of that, I started '06, '07, sometime around there.
Okay.
And no, it was probably before 2006, because just recently I found out I could get the 10-year veteran cape.
Oh.
You're like, dude, I could get the 20-year if they had that.
Yeah, that is as you say that, and as I start thinking about it, I legitimately think RuneScape is one of the last games I put as far as like RPGs go, any serious amount of time into. And that was simply one of those, I was in over my head. I didn't know what was going on. So, hundreds of hours invested, zero result in gameplay ability.
Yeah, I've only just gotten into it recently because graphics card of this computer, I think, is slightly melted because I had some heating issues. So I can't play War Thunder anymore because the frame rate will not get above 2 to 5 frames per second.
That's impressive. I'm not even gonna lie. That is really, really impressive.
Impressive in a bad way. Why do I keep getting that? Anyway, but since it's a fast-paced game, I cannot function in War Thunder. So I go back to the old game of RuneScape, at least it's old for me, and I'm finding it more enjoyable for some reason. But I hated it. I like the game, I like the concept, but I hated the grinder kind of farming that you need to do to get your skills. A couple days ago, I just got the 10-year cape, and I'm only level 60, 61 new now to the new combat thing and all the World of Warcraft-esque stuff that they've shoved into it. And I see these guys who are like up in their 90s. There's like the newest skill out is invention, and that skill you need to have 80 level 80 in 3 other skills, and it just got released like 4 days ago, and I've seen 10 plus people just got the highest ranking level in skill for invention, and it's only been open for like 3 days. So either they're hacking or they have no life and are really putting this much effort into RuneScape.
And that gets into, you know, the seriousness with which some people take RPGs. As I've said to others when discussing like World of Warcraft, I don't have the time for an unpaid part-time job. Nor do I have the desire to do so. While I really enjoy social gaming, and it would probably be different if I played such games with, you know, my normal group of compatriots. I don't have that, therefore the grinding really does drive me nuts. I'm currently playing World of Warships, and yeah, oh my god, the grinding is absolutely horrible.
If I could download it and if I could actually run it, I would play it with you, if that was possible. But since it probably has about the same level of complexity as War Thunder, I probably will not be able to run it on this thing. Ugh.
I will put it like this: it is a game that I really want to like. And I'm normally really against free-to-play because I feel like the vast majority of the time the players ruin it. But in this case, you know, I'm kind of working through it, and just the grinding is obnoxious.
Well, I will inform you that I have been free to play my entire life, but I usually do it in a professional manner because I just play to have fun. I don't mock anyone, especially. Oh, I'll tell you a story. I think you'll be amused. The guy who got me into War Thunder, my friend Nathan, he had a bit of Mike's Hard Lemonade this one time before we got on to play. So he and I are in our Panzer tanks in War Thunder, and we're coming on, and on good day, Nathan hates the tankers who fire machine guns into the rear end of the tanks because it can still damage them. And so this guy starts doing it, and Nathan swings his turret over and blows the guy away. And all of a sudden, he turns the entire crew against us in like 3 steps. He blows that guy away. He's going along with, I guess, the guy's mate or whatever, was totally pissed off. Saying, "What did you shoot him for?" And then he starts spamming Nathan in his tank, and Nathan's of course about to die. I can't let the dude who I'm partnered with go out, so I blow the hell out of that guy. And he says, "What are you doing?" "I was shooting the team killer." It's like, oh crap, this is okay then. Needless to say, most of the casualties incurred in that round, I believe, were on our side alone, inflicted by Nathan and me, and we were quickly killed out of that match, and we let them fend for themselves.
And I'll explain my hate of free to play. So Ghost Recon, Future Soldier, the first like very modern Ghost Recon that came out for 360 and PC about 6 years ago now, 5 years ago now. I got it, really, really enjoyed it. You know, AAA title. The campaign was very good, and the online multiplayer was actually phenomenal. Well, I turned around, I went on a deployment, I came back nearly a year later, and with all AAA titles, everybody had stopped playing. However, in the meantime, Ubisoft had released the free-to-play version of the game, and it was the same engine, just free-to-play, and it was only the online multiplayer. So I did the, okay, sweet, I'm gonna jump on, I'm gonna play, and as I'm playing, the quality of individual there was remarkably lower. It's just the barrier to entry, and you get a lot more of the 12 and 13-year-olds who have no idea what they're doing, but it's free to play, so they can play. That's my only complaint.
My friend Nathan was planning on trying to get me into League of Legends. He says, I like playing League of Legends, but I don't know if I want to expose you to the sewer that is the other people on there.
Yeah.
But then apparently wanting to game with me one night, it says you should just get League of Legends. Going off of the Ghost Recon, despite us not having video, I have right now in my hand a game I got 1 to 2 years ago because I am a cheap SOB. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter.
Which one? Was it the original Xbox or the 360?
This is PlayStation 2.
Oh, okay.
Hot 6.
Yeah. Remarkably a fun game. Ghost Recon 2 Summit Strike is still a game I will sit down and play, and it's probably the game that got me into like online competitive play. And yeah, absolutely, very, very, very fond memories there.
This only makes me want to play Halo 3.
The advantage, if you will, of PC Master Race is Steam sales are phenomenal, and yeah, I'm right there with you in the cheap bastard category.
It's like, okay, there was a sale on not Martyrdom. Yeah, one of the combat control Warhammer 40k sales was last week for $5. You get the premium, like 6 on Steam. So if you're into that, I don't know if that promotion is still going on, but it was fun. Or, sorry, I did not buy that. I had $25 in PayPal, and 20 of that went to go to buy a guy a pizza because he was bugging me. It's like, I got $5 left. I am not going to spend it on video games that may not be that good.
And the very, very nice thing about having the wide circle of friends that I do across like the nerd realms is, you know, I will definitely go through my Steam friends list and do the, oh hey, so and so has 400 hours on this game. I'm gonna take a look, you know.
What was the latest one you were asking people about? Was it like Siege or something?
Squad. Which is in early access on Steam. It is Arma without the requirement to have a degree from the War College and without the overly complex mechanics. It is a first-person military shooter in the kind of hyper-realistic simulator side of things, with a very heavy emphasis on squad play and teamwork.
So it's like I'm going to use this sparingly because I don't know exactly, like a watered down version of Rainbow Six Siege.
Whereas Siege takes, because I've played Siege quite heavily, um, Siege takes a very, cinematic approach to shooting people in the face. Um, they definitely suspended physics when it was convenient for gameplay, and Squad does not do that. Squad is very much your average dude, not the elite operator who knows what the color of the boathouse at Hereford is and all of that. Um,
Okay, Schmuck, here's a rifle. We're gonna need you to take out some guys.
yeah, and it's very much Joe Bob from Arkansas who's been through basic and some unit training fighting the Russians. Um, but in that it works very well because it tames your expectations, and I do like it quite a bit. I haven't played it since I picked up World of Warships, but really I'm just waiting for it to come out of early access.
I saw wherever they had been posted that as like I thought oh, I can play with my distant friends from the interwebs on this game. Oh wait, crap! It's like $30. No, that and this internet connection that I currently have. It takes me like overnight to re-download War Thunder, which is I think it's 13 gigabytes.
I'm going to need you to join the First World. The legitimately good internet is one of those things that because I've spent so much time overseas, like good internet is a must for me. But joys of living in the suburbs.
Well, I live out here in the country amongst the corn. I will tell you. I will tell you this. I played. The reason why I got back into Runescape recently was because I actually could run it. Now that we have high-speed internet, because between 1995, the year of my birth, to I'm gonna say 2013. No, possibly 2014, mid 2015, I had dial-up internet that went at max speed, or on consistent speed, 26.4 kilobytes per second.
So, I've been there. I've lived the dial-up life. I'm from Ohio originally, in corn-fed country, and I definitely remember trying to play StarCraft on that kind of internet. So trust me, I understand. Um, One of the deployments I was on, we were in the Middle East at the time. Sorry, I had to think about where I was at. And I'm trying to download a video. I don't even remember what the video was. And
Washington.
yeah, I made the mistake of checking the download speed, and I was literally at bits per second. Yeah.
I've had that on this connection. It's like I've had to download War Thunder like 3 to 4 times because of reasons. And I must say, the most amusing thing I have seen is the estimated time being the infinity symbol at no bits per second.
That is, oh yeah, no, been there. And it's remarkable to me that I'm complaining about internet speed as we were bouncing, signals off of satellites to get us internet in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the water. Like I should be amazed that we have any outside communication, and I'm over here complaining about, slow speeds. But yeah, no, trust me, I understand the struggle.
Oh man. Well, I think it's been about an hour. We're going to wrap it up right about now. So the lights fade as the cool music plays, and we'll hopefully see you next week.